As timber designers, we're asked to use timber in lots of different conditions. And in this module, we will look at service environment and the different conditions in which timber might be used and make sure that we are matching the right timber product for the right environment. We will look at using timber inside, outside, in harsh environments, in marine environments, and how we can estimate the service life of timber in different applications. So timber. Timber can deliver good service life in many environments, in many applications, but it's at its best when it's used indoors. On this slide, you can see 3 different photographs. In each of these cases, timber is used in a large building, inside, and it's got dual architectural and engineering roles. So it looks great, but it's also doing a profound structural job. And used in this kind of environment, it's going to last indefinitely. So using timber inside. 1, we want to match the moisture content of the timber to its service environment, so we're using seasoned timber. 2, we can use any finish whatsoever. In some cases, an architect may choose not even to finish the timber, but we can use clear finishes and get a lovely warm feeling inside the building. Most glues are suitable for internal use. And where it's hidden, where you can't see the timber, it's behind some surface cladding, we then need to ensure that you can either get somehow or other into it to inspect it, or that it's able to resist the attack of termites if they should get in behind the cladding. And it's really simple to do that by ensuring that it's treated to an H2 level. So here are some more photographs of timber used internally. So where it's used internally, away from moisture, away from direct sunlight, you can really bring out the warmth of the timber by using appropriate clear finishes. Now, service environment. We can assess the service environment using this table. Inside, where it's clearly visible and can be regularly inspected, that is the lowest level of exposure to risk. That is service environment H1. If it's behind panelling so that we can't inspect it, that's service environment H2. And we have to have some assurance that the timber is actually going to be able to resist unseen, unwanted guests like termites. If it's outside above ground, it's also exposed to the elements, which includes sunlight and water. And in that kind of environment, which is a harsher environment on the timber, we call that an H3 environment. If it's in ground contact, then the microbes, the fungi that live in the ground, have regular access to the timber, and that is an H4 environment. If we have it buried outside in wet ground, along with the fungi, we have moisture that is going to contribute to the degradation of timber. That is an H5 environment, and a marine environment is an H6 environment. Our trick is to match the timber and its natural durability or its treated durability to those environments. So we're going to, if we don't have enough natural durability, we will apply some treatments. And we apply treatments that have exactly the same H numbers as the environments in which they're going to be used. So an H3 treated timber is appropriate for an H3 environment, which is outside above ground. Where we're using timber outside above ground, it's important to try and keep the timber dry, where possible under a roof. And in the left-hand photograph is some outside timber that's been in service for over a decade, under a roof, off the ground, and it's still performing well, even though it's got a clear finish. On the right-hand photograph, it's not under a roof, and so we have to do other things to the timber to try and keep it dry. We provide air movement around connections, and particularly around the end grains, so that any moisture that gets onto the timber can be removed by natural air movement. We're also going to use appropriate finishes and coatings to try and keep moisture out of the timber. And what are appropriate finishes? The ones that work best are opaque and light colour. They keep the sunlight off the timber and they stop the timber from getting too hot. If we use dark coloured paints, then the timber does attract a lot more heat, is going to shrink more in service, which puts more stress on the the coatings. In some cases, the architect may say, look, it's a naturally durable timber, I want it to go gracefully grey with age, and that will happen. And the middle photo shows some timber that has gracefully greyed as it's got older. Clear finishes outside don't tend to last long. They generally have to be replaced after a couple of years, and in the right-hand photo is a relatively new building where the clear finishes have started to deteriorate and we've got some patchy, blotchy appearance on the outside of the building. Other devices we can use to keep the timber dry is avoid horizontal upper surfaces of the timber. Those horizontal upper surfaces are going to trap moisture, moisture will pond on them, but if there's a slope on those upper surfaces, then the moisture is going to run off. Appropriate levels of treatment are also really important, and appropriate glues for external environments are also important. In some cases, we will want to use timber in a really harsh environment. Timber doesn't rust. So it's perfect for a moist environment, such as a swimming pool enclosure, where there's chlorine in the air, which could cause corrosion for other products. But timber won't rust. However, the high levels of moisture mean that we have to be sure that there's good air movement around the timber and that it's not going to trap moisture inside the timber structure. So again, in these environments, detailing is really important. Timber can be used in a marine environment, but it is the harshest exposure that we can find for timber. Treatment to a high level is required for those types of applications, but where it is detailed and treated appropriately, it can last for many decades and even be refurbished, as this photograph shows. It is possible to predict the life of timber in many different service environments, and we can design it in much the same way as we do structural design for load resistance. In this case, we're designing for durability. The first thing is to find a target life expectancy, and the Building Code of Australia gives a design life guideline. Basically, this categorises products according to whether they can be relatively easily replaced, not replaced at all, or can be replaced with a great deal of ease. So things like plating on the outside of structures or even handrails can be replaced relatively easily. But timber buried deep within a structure can't be replaced relatively easily. In terms of the Building Design Life Guideline, timber that's buried very deep in a structure should be designed for a 50-year life, and timber that can be quite easily replaced should be designed for a 15-year life. The life of timber in service can be assessed by looking at a design guide for durability. There is one such design on the web, WoodSolutions.com.au, and I will extract a couple of captures from that to show you the way it works. In evaluating the service life of a timber element, we look first at the climate zone. It gives us an indication of the likelihood of the hazard in that part of the country. It can then be used with the particular microclimate set up by the detail itself. Is water likely to be trapped inside the detail? Does the detail shed water very easily? And then with the level of treatment and the type of timber, we can establish what the expected life of that piece of timber in service is. So in summary, timber is at its best when it's used indoors. Timber can be used outdoors, but it's best if it's detailed to remain as dry as possible. This is best achieved by using a roof, if you like an umbrella, over the top of the structural element. Where it's not possible to have it under a roof, a good coating will keep moisture away from the timber. But that coating needs to be maintained regularly to be kept effective. And we can predict the design life of timber in many different environments by using a timber service life design guide, and there is one available on the WoodSolutions website.